Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, everyone. Miss Natasha here. I hope you're doing well. I am just elated to be here once again. Um, by the way, I'm Miss Natasha. I'm a mental wellness creative and advocate, speaker, and author. And I have such a wonderful presence here. I'd love I'd love to just add three words I thought of when I was asking to do this interview. One is family oriented, one is hardworking, and another word is loving. So may I please ask if you can introduce yourself?
Hi, Natasha. Thank you so much for having me today. So my name is Beverly Quaison, and I would say I wear multiple hats, like the beautiful hat that Natasha is wearing today. I am a wife. I'm a mother. I have three boys under the age of 10, and I also work in the legal field. My background is in law, and I currently work for the government of Ontario.
You are an amazing soul. And
Oh, thank
and
you.
you do a, all sorts of things just to make sure that your family is taken care of. And you put in loads of efforts to make sure that it happens. And that's exactly why I asked if I could interview you.
Thank you. I think it's an honor to talk to you because I know the amazing work that you're doing in the community. You do amazing things. I've known you for a couple of years now, and I'm just in awe of all your accomplishments. Your book that just came out, I'm excited for you, and you're just doing such great things. So keep it up.
Yes, thank you. So I'll just get right into it. Did the industry you chose you're in choose you, or did you choose the industry?
That's a loaded question, but I'll try and simplify it. Okay, so when I was young, I always wanted to be a lawyer. Part of it was I had an aunt growing up who was a lawyer, and she influenced how I like what I was interested in. But I think my interest and passion came from I grew up in a community. So I'm originally grew up in Toronto, and I remember growing up and seeing a lot of injustices in terms of like young people, specifically racialized people, Black boys, Black women, and how they were treated differently. And so my initial interest was in human rights. I wanted to be like the one that fights for the rights of people, to speak up for those that don't have a voice. And so that was what drove me to go into the legal field. I've been in it for a few years now, and I'm not working in human rights, but I am working in a space that allows me to make changes in the lives of people on a regular basis. And that's something that I'm very proud of.
Really? What made you gravitate to the community company you're in or create the company you have?
So, as I had mentioned, I currently work for the government of Ontario. Um, I went into that area. I think it's a great place to work in terms of having more of a work-life balance. I know that growing up from the people that are around me, the mentors, a lot of the ones that I spoke to earlier before I actually started going into law, who did practice law, said if you do like corporate, it's quite tedious in terms of time demanding. You don't get time for your family. You're working really crazy long hours. And so I knew that for me, family came first, right? I knew that I would have to sacrifice and put my kids first. And so, in order to do that, I needed to work in a field that would give me flexibility. It would allow me to have a balance. And when I think that is so important, a lot of times nowadays people are working, and it's important to work. We have to work, right? But it's a lot of people are stressed out, they're overwhelmed, mentally, physically. It's a lot. And so I wanted a field that would allow me to balance my family responsibilities as well as have time to do other things outside of work. And so I decided to go into government because it gave me that flexibility. I would say I try to work at typical hours, 9 to 5, or I even go in a little bit earlier so I can get home in time to put dinner on the table, to attend my son's football games and whatever else, help the kids with their homework because the kids are very young, so they do need a lot of my attention still.
Mhm. That's wonderful. And did you go to college or university for your current position?
I did. So I have a degree, an undergrad degree in sociology and history. And then when I finished that, I had started doing my master's, but I knew that I wanted to go to law school. So I got accepted into law school. I went to law school and then I had to get certified. So for that process is you finish law school and then you write the bar exams, you pass the bar exams, and then you get called to the bar. Depending on the province that you're in, then you get to practice in that area. So I currently work within Ontario.
And what skills do you use the least within your field?
That's a good question. What skills do I use the least? Let me think about it for 1 second. Okay, so I'm going to be very honest with you. I've never been great in math. I've never been the math person. I gravitated more towards the social sciences, like the reading, the English, the history. And so I knew I couldn't work in a field where I would have to be crunching numbers or working with numbers. So I would say that I don't use my math skills too much. I do use that at home when it comes to budgeting and the finances with the family, because you have to keep on track. But within my day-to-day work, I would say I don't use too much of my math skills.
That's great. Because some people may want, like, I'm curious to what skills people use the least in their field,
Mhm.
how they got to where they are and why. So I'm hoping others will feel that understand this area of law, because I
Mhm.
sure learned a lot, especially that you could switch over from your humanities or your sociologies to
Mhm.
law.
Yeah. I think, Natasha, one of the benefits of working within the law space is that there's so many different areas, right? So you have real estate, contract, business, like it's endless, criminal. And so depending on what you're interested in, like as I had mentioned, I was interested in human rights, you can sort of go along that path. You don't have to feel like you're stuck. And I think back to a question that you previously asked about the field that I work in, one of the things of working in the government is that it allows you to move around. So originally, when I started working there, I was working at the Ministry of Health and Long-Term Care. So I was looking at health issues. And then later on, I moved to a different ministry where I looked at emergency services. And
Mhm.
now I work for the Ministry of Transportation. So we're trying to find ways in which we can help people be able to navigate the city better, less congestion, less traffic, allowing them to be able to use public transit more, right? Because there's a lot of people who have a difficult time navigating public transit. Like currently, right now, I'm working on a project for specialized transit, and specialized transit is for people who have disabilities and other forms of it, making it more difficult for them to get around the city.
Mhm.
And people don't realize it's almost like 2 to 3 times more difficult for somebody who has special needs to get around the city compared to somebody who's using conventional transit, right? I remember when I was pregnant with my last born and just getting around the city, you get to certain places and there's no elevator, so you have to do stairs. Or if you have a stroller, right? Or if you're in a wheelchair, but there's so many obstacles that people have to overcome in order to just to get to an appointment or to just to get to work. And
Mhm.
so I think it's really important that whatever field that you're in, you keep in mind, like, am I making a difference? Even if it's on a small scale, you
Mhm.
try and do whatever you can to help.
Yeah, I love that. I realized that they also started making assisted people working to assist the person who may need extra help with transit. They made this
Yes, it's called a support person. Yeah.
support
So then
person.
you can have somebody
Yeah.
who comes with you, who can help you get around the city, depending on where you have to go. And those things make a difference, right? For somebody who's in that situation, it's
Mhm.
such a big difference in terms of how they live their lives on a day-to-day basis. And these are things that sometimes we take for granted.
Mhm.
If you don't have those available to you, then it does really make a big difference on your life.
In my business, I had
Mhm.
done that several times for individuals with disabilities as well. So
Oh,
I
okay.
know firsthand how much that can affect someone's life, someone's confidence,
Yes.
to be able to maneuver their own
Mhm.
life in
Mhm.
way in a way in which just to go to school or just to go to work. It's
Yes.
wonderful. All right. So, in your opinion, how does
Mhm.
one become great?
How does one become great? That's a that's a big question. Um, I think greatness is defined based on what you think greatness is. I don't think there's one way of defining it, right? In my personal opinion, somebody might answer differently, but I think greatness comes from, first of all, within. And so you have to look at your individual self and say, what are the things that are important to me? What are my values, right? What are the things that I want to put out there? I want people to remember me by.
Mhm.
And for me personally, I don't think of myself as great, but what I do know is what is important to me, and I work towards those goals. And Natasha, one of the things I really love about you is the idea of you talking about loving, right? Don't hate, create, because it puts you put so much energy into hating somebody, but why don't you do something beautiful instead? Right? What is the point of hurting other people or doing things that are it's a waste of time the way I see it. It's so much more easier to love, to care for people, even just giving somebody a simple smile. You go out and you smile at somebody who's having a bad day. You ask, how are you doing today? It's like the little simplest things. And so I think it's important for us to focus on what can I give to other people. It's not necessarily about what you're getting, right? In the process of giving, you end up getting so much from it. But when you put yourself out there and you're kind to people, I feel like it comes back to you in so many ways, even when you don't expect it. So I think greatness comes from within and just putting yourself out there and caring for other people and showing the world that it's a beautiful place and there's good people out there.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if I answered the question, but yeah.
Yes. But this is why I'm doing this because sometimes we only hear the negative.
Yes.
Why not boost up the notion of just showing the positive in how another made it? You can do this too. Maybe
That's
not in
right.
the same way, but you can
Yeah.
do it too. So thank
Yeah.
you for that. All
And
right.
Natasha, just to add to this,
Mhm.
so I'm not a science person,
Mhm.
but the physical body, right? When you do something that makes you feel good, it actually improves your health,
Mhm.
right? Physically improves your health. And so if you're going to put energy into doing something, why shouldn't it be something good, right? You're touching other people's lives by being good. You're physically feeling better, right? And so there's so many benefits to it. And I think that human beings by nature, we have goodness in us. And I think we just need to go out there and do that little extra work and just show kindness to other people.
Yeah. We're not saying because I swear I'm perfectly imperfect. And I'm
We
not
all
going to
are.
go around making things look like it's perfect. I'm going to go
Yeah.
into it like, okay, we aim for perfection,
Yes.
but we still know that we will stumble or fall. I have this thing somewhere here, and I put the fall stickers on it, and it said it's just
Hmm.
on a white piece of board. It says "fall forward." A little play on
Oh,
fall.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
why not? Because we're gonna do it. We all have done it.
Yes.
But anyway,
Hmm.
um, you already talked about this, but I'm just gonna ask, how are you of service to others?
How many of service to others? Okay, so it's funny that you asked that question because my husband and so many of my friends and people around me, they was used to tell me, and they still tell me this up to date, like you should have been a like a therapist or a psychologist, right? They say that to me all the time, and I kind of laugh, but I see what they mean. People have a tendency to come to me and just ask me for advice, for a word of encouragement. When somebody has an issue, they'll pick up the phone and be like, "This is what I'm dealing with," and they will always come to me. And so I used to make a joke like, if I don't stay in law, I can always become a therapist because I think I enjoy helping people. It's part of my nature. I also think it's generational. My mother is the same way. My grandmother was the same way. And growing up, I remember my mother would always have people around her. She's feeding them. Like
Mhm.
at times, there were people that were staying with us, living with us. And I was like, oh my gosh, this lady, like she always has people around. And I realized that it's passed on to me. People continue to come to me for advice. And there's times, don't get me wrong, it is exhausting because when you take on that role, you also have to find a way to also fill your cup, right? You can't pour out what you don't have. And so there's moments where I need to just sort of go away and rest. But I do realize that it's something that it's, I would say maybe a calling where people feel like they can share something with me and I can help and they feel better knowing that I was there to listen to them. So I continue to do that as much as possible for friends, for family, and for whoever. I even meet strangers who just start sharing and opening up to me. And so I look at them, I'm like, oh, wow, that's a lot of information. But I feel like that's a part of my calling. And so I try to do what I can.
Yeah, that's great. That's like we have to be of service in one way or
Yes.
another. All right. How do you maximize the return on your time?
Oh, okay. So as I mentioned before, I have three boys under the age of 10. Well, my eldest is 10, then the middle is 7, and the youngest is 4.
Mhm.
Even though I have somewhat of like a flexibility in my work schedule, my work is demanding at times. So I put everything in schedules. I'm very organized in the sense where I have to write everything down, whether if it's in a notebook, in my phone, I keep track of everything, reminders. Um, I'm learning to ask for help because that was one thing that I wasn't good at. I used to be very like, I can do it myself and I'm independent and I don't need anyone's help. I think we do that a lot of women at times, but I'm learning to ask for help when I need it, and accept help because there's a difference between asking for help, but you have to actually accept it, right? When people are willing to do it, because if you're letting somebody do it, you can't be there telling them how to do it. And so I'm learning to accept help. I've always been organized, as I said before, and I have a lot of things down on schedule.
That's that's like w- some of us don't know how to do it. So again, hearing it from another may be able to rejig your life in a proper form. No,
Hmm.
already. And I have two more for you. The second last one is, how do you navigate hope?
Ask me that question again.
How do you navigate hope?
How do I navigate hope? Hmm. Okay, so I'm a Christian.
Hmm.
I believe in God. And so I feel like I have to have hope. I have to have faith. I have to believe that there's something that's greater, somebody who's bigger than me. And so having hope allows me to recognize when things don't always work out the way that I want to, but there is always something better,
Hmm.
right? Um, I have faith knowing that life will work itself out. It might not be on my timing, but I'm learning to be patient. And I think part of having hope is the idea around faith and trusting, right? And knowing that God is able, no matter what I go through, even though it may be difficult, I'm not forgotten and He's not forsaking me and He'll continue to work things out for my good.
Hmm. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, last question. What have you done for yourself in the last month?
Oh, that's a good one. What have I done for myself in the last month? Okay, so actually, I do this for myself on a regular basis. I go for massages. I try to
Hmm.
go every month for a massage.
Hmm.
It's like me time. It gives me an opportunity to get away from my husband as much as I love him and the kids. It's an hour of where I can just sit back and relax. I don't have to think about work and just treat myself. And so that's what I try to do for myself. Which reminds me, I need to book one for this month. But yeah, I think it's just an opportunity to just step away because sometimes you just need to go to a place where it's quiet and you can like rejuvenate and restore. And that's really important, especially if you're somebody who feel like you're constantly always pouring into other people. It can take a toll on you, right? Um, Life family, friends, it can be demanding, but you also have to set boundaries. And that's something that it's so important. Like setting boundaries, as I'm getting older, I'm getting better at doing it because before I was a little bit scared of disappointing people. But as you get older, you realize that there's just so much that you can do and you have to set boundaries, and people will respect those boundaries when you set it. So
Thank
that's what
you.
I've been doing.
Thank you. Thank you, Beverly. It was very enlightening and also encouraging because you're doing great work out there to help uh persons like us and everybody out there be safe. So thank
Thank you.
and I'm just going to say my spiel at the end and
Okay.
I just would ask if you would like to say anything before we go.
Two things. The first thing I want to say is thank you for doing this. This was really, I think it's amazing what you're doing because you're getting to know so many people and we're also learning in the process from each other. So keep up the great work. I'm so proud of you and I feel so honored to be one of your friends. The other thing is I think this is sort of to everyone out there, you have to give what you have, right? Sometimes we're always waiting to get to a certain point before we do something. But I believe that each and every one of us has something to give. It doesn't have to be big. It can start off as small and you just continue to build upon that and work towards whatever goal that you have. Like there's nothing that we cannot achieve. Sometimes we let fear hold us back from doing things, but fear is, it can be overcome. And so just take that first initial step and do whatever you can to help people. So continue to create and don't hate. Thank you, Natasha.
Thank you. Okay. Create Don't Hate was born out of frustration. The frustration of individuals hating on other individuals with differences. We wanted to start a movement of hope, courage, and love and build community and connection in the process. Create Don't Hate is a real practical way